Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review. We're recording live on Sunday, the 18th of May, after completion of round 10. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is a couple of my co-hosts and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatics. I'll start off with Tim Guest. Guesty, mate, how are you? How was the weekend? Obviously, it's tough for pretty much everyone in the footy world, mate. But besides that, how was it?
Yesterday was a tough day. So I knew him, but I wouldn't say I knew him well. I met him about 15 years ago, and every time we kind of saw each other, we'd always catch up and have a chat. And the one thing I always remember about him is just what a bloody lovely guy he was. Always very generous, very curious, and just always. I don't know. I couldn't say that we were mates, but I would always kind of refer to him as a mate. He was just that one of those kind of guys, he just made you feel like that, So yesterday was a bit of a tough day, and probably also, probably brought up a bit of stuff for me as well. Going through the last couple of years, going through a divorce and going through the family court. So I was really lucky. I had a few really good mates, including you, Bales. Reach out and check in on me, and that was good, giving me the opportunity to kind of talk and then, I really just spent a solid day with my kids today. So, and that was exactly the right thing for me to do. So I'm feeling actually pretty good today. But yeah, look, just tragic, absolutely tragic. And, mental health's not it's not a small thing, and it's something that we've got to take care of and we've got to have our eyes on. And, sometimes these things, people might not even be involved, but it might trigger things for them in their own life. So, reach out to your mates and, check in on them and let's just look out for each other, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Very well said. It sort of, this weekend sort of makes fantasy sort of seem very minute and very small compared to that. But we will, a few people already saying there, what's Bale's going to win tonight? Don't you worry. We'll be whinging because that is what I do when I'm not going too well. So, yeah, but joining us as well is obviously another one of our fantasy fanatics is Jordy. Jordy, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me on. Gone not too bad. Had a couple gigs this weekend. Watched a few games of footy as well. So, but I'm sure we'll talk about the round. It wasn't the best round for me, so I'm sure we'll dissect all that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get stuck into it. We'll go straight to you, Jordy, mate. How did you go? What was your score, your round rank, and your overall rank?
Yep. So I got 21-24, and my rank has slid to 640 now. So I've gone down to 349 spots this week. So, yeah, I guess coming into Sunday, I thought I was tracking all right with a couple of pop scores from, Noah Anderson and Chera, and even my trade in Bergman, I thought was 79, was not too bad at a D6 range. But I just think, obviously today didn't have Sinclair, and I think that hurt me, and Marshall, and obviously went back a few spots.
Yeah, exactly. Tough round, I think, for a lot of people out there, but there was some big scores. Guesty, mate, how was your round? What was your score, round rank, and overall rank?
Yeah, so a 2094 for me. So another kind of pretty average week. I think a round rank of around about 24,000. Had me slide from just under 9,000 out to about 11,000. So, it wasn't horrible, but it's certainly not the direction that I wanted to be moving in. That's for sure.
Yep, another tough week. Another tougher week for me as well. So 2106, that was a round rank of 21,348. And I moved down, what was that, 454 spots. So, yeah, when you're ranked outside 13,000, you don't want to be going down in rank. So, yeah, tough week. But, we move. Jordy, plus and minus 3 for you?
I'm going to give my +3 to Noah Anderson. So I've had him since round 2 or 3. I traded him, and Thursday night got off to a great start there with a 116. So I'll give him the +3. I'm going to give my -3 to Nasayo and Ganimbalera, actually, because I think a lot of others might have Horn Francis. So I'll go with him. I think, that last game just then was I don't have Sinclair, and I think a lot of people have Sinclair versus Wangani Malera, and I think that was about 70 points difference there. So I'll give him the -3. It might be a bit harsh, but it's fresh on the mind.
Yeah. Oh, no, 76, not good enough. He's over $1 million and he's been pretty consistent. So I know he's had a good year, but he did go off twice with, I think, looked like cramp. Mate, not good enough. We need bigger scores than a 76 against West Coast. So I'm sure we bounce back, but yeah, poor score from him. Guesty, plus and -3 for you?
Well, my +3's got to be Roma on debut. A massive 158. So, obviously good matchup for him. Good win for the Eagles as well. Inspired probably a little bit by the events of the last couple of days as well. But my -3 goes to a young Bailey Ergang. That's right. Yes, here we go, mate. Here we go. How did I go on my matchup?
I have not heard anyone call me by my full name.
There you go.
A long time. Not even my mum calls me my full name.
Oh, mate, you're in trouble. That's why you're in trouble with me, because let's look at it, right? I'm having a tough week as it is. We're in a matchup in the Content Creators Cup. I score 2094 and you beat me by 12 points with a 2106.
Got it.
Today, not paying attention to the footy too much, I message in the Fanatics group. I'm like, what should I hear the news about Max Gawn and Darcy Fort and McInerney being out, and I'm like, should I keep the C on Roma or should I switch it to Gawney? And Bales comes back with you should switch it to Gawney. So trusting my mate as I did in my moment of need, and he fucked me.
Well, first of all,
my own call, but I'm glad to give you a little bit of shade today, mate. No.
Yeah.
But look, that sucked. I mean, Maxi still had a big score, but obviously it was a 158. And if I had had the captain on him, I would have won in the matchup this week, and had a better overall rank for the week as well.
Oh, there we go. Deception. There you go. No, I honestly, we know Big O and Gawney's up against Fort. You're like,
yeah.
And we hadn't seen anything from Ryan Marshall for the better part. Well, since round 3, anything over 120. I know he went 116 last week, but still, he played a good half and an average half, but he was back this week. So I think Marshall is a captain option. Maybe not for 2 weeks with tough matchups, but.
What I should have done is stuck with the tactic last week. What was it? You'd went against Nick Dacos and, you were going to bring in Tom Green and went Nick Dacos, and I brought in Tom Green for his 133, and you picked Gawney. I should have gone against you again. That would have worked out fine for me. That's the luck that Bales is having this year.
Yeah, exactly. My plus and -3. Oh, well, it's because no one's given it to him. It's very, very hard. Shout out to the guy that nearly got the Crows over the line in Jordan Dorse with a 138. Very harsh. He's not getting my +3, but it's got to go to the captain this week. Big X, Tristan Cherry, 155. Tell you what, it was bloody good to have the Cherry Marshall combo back and going massive this week, getting over 300 points combined from both of them, and then also having the captain on Cherry, so getting well in excess of that. So he was fantastic. Him and Nank were just absolutely going at it. And I was thinking, well, I looked at Nank as a bit of a pod if I want to go different. But Marshall just said, hold my beer after that 150 and went 158 and then went better than both of them. So very, very good from Big X. And -3, I would have probably given it to Nasiah. But in saying that, I'm actually glad you gave it to Nasiah, Jordy, because Nick Dacos, my God, yeah, so-called $1.1 million midfielder, absolute bullshit. He's just not good enough. Simple as that. Which obviously I'm joking. I know he's better and he'll be better. He's got north this way. I do expect to bounce back. But a 67 and 88 in back-to-back weeks, trading him in. And I know a lot of people have had 3 sub-tons from him. He's just been very, very, very poor. So he gets a -3. I don't care if 88 is not my worst score. Bigger problems in the team, but he needs to be sent a message because it's not good enough. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Tim, want to go quickly just around the grounds for the Content Creators Cup and how the Fanatics went this week?
Yeah, look, I'm just going to quick shout out to a couple of people. So firstly, John Harmey had the highest score on the Content Creators Cup this week. Proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. That's right. The other shout out I want to give is to to Louis, who pretty much it looks like it was a bit of not a great round for a lot of the content creators. It looks like a lot of us moved back. Louis managed to pretty much hold rank though at a 137. So obviously still well within range there. And MJ moved up into 517th as the second ranked
He's having
coach.
a very good year.
Yeah, so we might do we'll do the normal Twitter shout outs in terms of all the matchups and the ladders and all that kind of stuff, particularly when a lockout drops. But yeah, that's just a quick shout out to the Content Creators Cup.
Well, you didn't go to the matchups because that's the thing you need to go to. Because
matchups, mate.
No, the Fanatics matchups, because there was a big matchup between us two, and I got the job done. And I know you said it, but I want you to say it again. So that's only my third win for the season, and I'm sort of slightly back in the hunt with the headheads. Yeah, so I'm happy. But no, Jordox got a very big win though, because he scored a 22-44 and he beat Lemon, who obviously is right up there with the 21-21. Yeah. So very good result for him. And then Jaiden unfortunately went down to Sanch 21-41, and Jaiden with the 2004. So tough week for J-Pop's Jackpots. So tough week for him. But good week for Bales Nails at least somewhere. So there you go. But let's go through the matchups. And Thursday night, Gold Coast beat Hawthorn. Friday night, Sydney beat Carlton. So let's move to Saturday because there wasn't much relevance. No, only joking. There's not very many relevant players on here, but we will go to your boy Jordy. Noah Anderson, 116 on Thursday night in Gold Coast win. Is he a trade target again? He's going to be below 950K now. His run opens up, I think, a little bit now, leading to their buy. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's definitely one you can look at his price. I think he still could be a top 8 mid if he can get on a good run. Probably the only one thing is he had 35 disposals and he had a goal as well. So I think for Noah to get a good 100 plus now, I think he needs to actually accumulate it because he's not really marking. He had the one mark, and that's sort of been this thing over the last couple of weeks. So if he can start accumulating it a bit more, I think he can potentially push it up. But at that price, I think he could be a good option. So one to definitely watch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was the night if you sort of had someone here and they went, well, you're pretty off to a good start. So John Newcomb, a few people got there, 123. John Noble, 116. So both good scores from them. Obviously, we mentioned Noah Anderson with the 116. Carl Amon solid with the 92 there. Dylan Moore, 87. Probably wanted to see. Well, we saw what we wanted to in the first half. He's great. 61 points, 26 points the second half. A little bit unders, but could potentially be an option because obviously we have a pretty big injury in the forward line. So maybe if you can get creative, he might be an option there for you. To be honest, it's probably Sicily was poor with the 57. Flanders, we just not getting done, 47. And then condolences to anyone that jumped on CJ Jath, only 34 points for him. So not great. Unfortunately, the return of Scrimshaw certainly meant that role was similar, but didn't get as much ball as what he has been doing. Moving over to the Friday night game, Sydney and Carlton. So Sydney obviously get the job done by 16 points there. And Tim, a couple of Swans responding. Isaac Heaney, 122 with 38 touches, 2 goals, 5. This could have been an absolute monster. And then Chad Warner with a 116. Also, shout out to your boy Adam Chera with a 121 was also very good. But talking about the Sydney boys, they've got a pretty good run current now. They're going Melbourne, Adelaide, Richmond, then the bye. They're both pretty cheap. Is either Isaac Heaney or Chad Warner on the shopping list for you?
So I didn't see this game, but what I did hear a little bit about, was it Heaney starting in the square? So what sort of role are they both playing? Because I mean, this is the thing you got to watch with those two Sydney boys. I mean, we know that the kind of the pedigree that Heaney's got from last year, although he did fade late into that year. But I think with Coxie there, a bit of a different game style. I'm just not sure that we can rely on them to be the accumulators. I know a lot of people look to jump on Chad Warner, but what sort of role did Heaney play on the night, mate?
Yeah, they're both mostly midfield. Like they did play some time sort of forward, more like resting. So in terms of like the game, there was 23 CBAs here, and Heaney was at 20 of them. So he was majority there and went forward if he wasn't in there. And Chad Warner spent a little bit more of the game forward and had it. They both had quiet first halves. It was the second half where they really sort of put it on. So third quarter, Heaney 45. Oh, both Heaney and Warner scored 45 points each. And the last quarter, Heaney 35 and Warner 31. So both sort of really got going after that. So I guess their roles have been the same as what they have been all year. It's just they had these pop scores. So I guess because they're both, I think they're both still going to be under 900K. And obviously, we'll talk about Horn Francis later. But are you considering maybe a Chad Warner, particularly in the forward line, or a Heaney under 900K?
Not really, no. I mean, we're kind of moving forwards out, I've got a Levi Ashcroft that I'm still hanging on to. I've got a Caleb Daniel that I've moved into the midfield, and people were looking to get off, but obviously with the bullets that we had this week. So, I think, obviously it's going to depend on cash as well, but I think there's going to be more top line players that you can get to, whether it's in your midfield or in your defence. And then, I've also got, other players that we're starting to look at with lower prices like Philippou and a Kitty Coleman and, players like that. So I'm just not sure that that's the kind of player that you want to be looking to bring in right now. Now, of course, if that's the only cash that you got, that's the only cash that you got. But, and you got to bring in the best that you can. And they are potentially, top line forwards in that. But yeah, I think you should be aiming a bit higher right now.
Yeah. What else we got here? We got Sam Wicks, 88, another player. So everyone's got Wicks can thank me. I trade him out. Everyone I trade out this year goes really well. So Wicks was another one of those guys that went well. So 88 points. He would have been really handy to have looped on. Angus Sheldrick, Jordy, 83. His first half was very, very good. I think he was top scoring player on the ground. He's going to be mid 400s. Is there any sort of way that you can maybe go if you can go like a red dot to him? Is that something you'd consider?
Maybe because, the thing with him, he had 60% TOG, and that seems to be what Cox likes to do, is give him a low TOG, but he obviously scores. I was worried because Callum Mills had a really good VFL performance. He only played half a game though and got 80 fantasy, I think it was. So I wonder what that means for Sydney. Does that mean Mills is going to do a full game next week? So does that mean, he's back in 2 weeks? The thing is that McInerney got a 1 week suspension and Amadi got a 3 week suspension. So even with Mills comes in, Sheldrick probably does hold his spot for a few weeks, I think, if they shuffle things around. So I think maybe you could look at it like as if you need to fix a red dot for buys. I think he could potentially do that. I think Mills is probably his direct replacement, but it's just what happens with Mills in a few weeks. He might be a few weeks away because he only did play a half. So
if Mills comes in next week, because a lot of people are going to ask this, and we'll probably answer this even more on Tuesday night. Mills, is he the sort of guy you just can't launch into week one, or is there a world where you can?
It's a tough one because we sort of saw that with Philippou. We saw him. I think he dropped to 50 today. Jumping on these guys. We just saw Kitty Coleman. I wonder if Kitty Coleman's a better option at his price than Mills, just to wait. Like you're going to save 200K to go Kitty over Mills. So I'll probably lean that way. And I don't know. We've just seen in the years before they have subbed him out and stuff. I wonder who Sydney got this week.
Melbourne.
Okay. Yeah.
MCG.
I think we probably should wait on a guy like Mills when we've got other options around us.
Ideally, he comes back this week and we bring him in round 12 when the buy round, so we can hide behind best 18 and everything like that if something were to happen. But yeah, I agree. I'd be waiting a week on Callum Mills. Matt Roberts, poor score at 73, but he's been fine. He's sort of not an issue at the moment. And also Walsh just continued his 80s with an 81. Ollie Holland 69 there as well. Guesty Jordy, I'll go back to you for this one here. 59, obviously had a really poor first half again and saved himself, particularly in the last quarter. Most people would say that he's a trade, right? And I think with Horn France, which again, we will keep saying we'll get to, he's got Melbourne, Adelaide, Richmond, which is green on for designated kickers. Is Guesty just a guy that best 18 coming up, we just hold until he's round 14 by, or is he still like a guy you'd still tick off if you've got luxury that you say, yep, you can go?
I think that's the point. Yeah, I think it's luxury if you can. If it's like one of your worst spots, you can get him up to a primo, you do it. But I think for me, with the good run, I think I'm just going to hold him because I need green dots. And obviously with, round 12, I've got quite a few out. So I think I'm just going to look to hold him and just have him to cover for me, especially for round 12. Maybe after round 12, I can get rid of him because I'll have more numbers across the board. But yeah, definitely tick it off. If you, maybe you go him down at Coleman or something, if that's, an option to get some cash.
Yeah, you might not want to trade him around 13 though, because he's got Richmond. So that if you keep him, then you probably keep him to his bye. But yes, agreed. That's a good point. And then a few rookies, poor scores here. Matt Carroll, just good to see him back for some cash gen with a 40. But Caden Cleary's going to lose money with a 36. He's a bit of an issue as well. And then Corey Warner with a 27. So a few of those rookies not quite getting it done. We'll move to the Saturday games, and no surprise to me, Collingwood and Adelaide, another close game and another Collingwood win. So the hoodoo continues for the Crows. But Jordan Dawson, 138 points, was the only ton in this game, which was quite surprising. A low-scoring fantasy game. But Jordan Dawson at the MCG, I just think we have to VC him or captain him, depending on when he plays. It's 2 scores over 130 at the G. He just loves playing there, and 27 touches, 9 marks, 8 tackles, and a goal is exactly what you want. So Dawson, very, very good score from him. Roy Led was next with 95. Probably knows he's going to be around this for most of the year. I just don't think he's top 6, but if he's best you can get to, don't hate it. Isaac Rankin, 89, was solid. And obviously we heard on Friday, I was quite nervous. There was a 1-second clip where at training, Rankin kicked a goal and grabbed at his hamstring, and I was thinking, oh, here we go, like this is going to be out. But he played and he looked fine, so no issues there with him. Then you had Josh Dacos with an 82 and Nick Dacos with an 88. Peatling with a 77. Ned Long with a 77. So he was pretty solid. Would be nice if Collingwood for once played him for the last 5 minutes of the game, but that seems to be what they're doing with him there. And I think that's pretty much it from their games. I don't think there's really too much to discuss there. People either did their job or subpar. So for to keep running through the games, we will move on to the other game because this game's got a bit more fantasy chat to go through. So that's Port and Geelong, with Geelong getting the job done by 76 points. So big win for the Cats. And Bailey Smith continued on his merry way with a 123. I know about you boys. I cannot wait for Thursday night football. The Dogs go down the highway to take on the Cats and the Bailey Smith Cup, as the people on Foxwood were coining it or whatever. I'm really looking forward to that, and I wonder if we can maybe even put the VC on him for that one there. But will be interesting. But he's was a great once again. Yeah, absolutely flying. I think he's going to be up there for Brownlow contention at the moment. Connor Rozee with a 1-0. Yep, yeah.
Oh, I think he's the number 1 player in the game. He's averaging 119. Gawn's at 113, so he's 6 points ahead. Like, he's just flying.
Yeah. I thought that this could be a possibility, Rob. I didn't think he was going to go really with 190. Yeah. I thought, yep, he did it for the Dogs back in the day, but coming off an ACL, like, surely he can't go at this level. But he's just absolutely dominating at the moment. So he is very, very good, and we've all got him, so we're all going to enjoy it. Connor Rozee with a 109, played halfback for 3 quarters, went in the midfield for a little bit, but this game was just an injury fest in the first half. I don't think I've ever seen this before. 4 hamstrings in the first half. So you had, first of all, it was Sin with a hip. He went out, or a rib, one of the two, but he went out on one. Then you had Dangerfield with a hamstring, Jack Bowes with a hamstring, and the biggest one, Guesty, was Jason Horne-Francis, went down with a hamstring there on 11 points in the first quarter. I thought this was going to be like a 12-week injury, the way that sort of he reacted from it and came off. And good news for Port. He's only going to be out for a couple of weeks, but I guess Tim with the bye in round 12, and he'll miss 3 fantasy weeks for us. Is this just a must trade for you?
Yeah, must trade. Absolute must trade. Like I said, I think a lot of people will be, well, maybe looking at rotating him into the midfield there and doing something nice and juicy with him, or even, there might even be some people there with a bit of cash in the bank who might look at splitting into, a couple of players that we can get in, like we talked about, like a Kitty Coleman before or something along those lines. But yeah, so it's must trade for sure.
Yeah. And he'll be an option at some point as well, right? Because he's only going to miss a few weeks. So his break will be pretty big, and he'll go down. He might be close to 800K, maybe even slightly below. So he'll be a popular target a little bit down the line there. Another guy to be a popular target is Zach Butters. So he copped the Mullen tag, which I did think that was going to happen because Butters and Dacos are pretty similar. And Mullen went to him and kept him to 46. So for all us non-owners, that's it's obviously good because it means he'll get cheap. Got the round 12 bye. He's a pretty good target, I think, throughout those buys there.
Bales, just on Butters. So if he gets 100 next week, he'll be, I think, I was looking at the price, he'll be at about 970 coming off the buy.
Yeah, really?
Which is cheap as. So your round 13 trading could be Butters at about 970K. So if he gets 100 next week, I've been looking at the prices already. So, yep.
Yeah.
How did Bergman go in this game? I know a lot of people looked at or brought him in.
Bergman was flying. He started inside mid, which was the role that we were hoping for. He went to Baz, and he was on 70 at 3/4 time, and he had high CBAs until halftime. But I think I didn't catch heaps of the Port game, but I think with the injuries, Sin Jones having hamstrings, he had to go back and play a defense role, and he had a 9-point last quarter, which isn't great. And obviously at this point, the game was, we were sort of like at halftime, we weren't down by too much, but I think the second half, they obviously blew us away. And I think maybe, put him down in the back line. So I'm just interested to see what happens with our ins. I assume with the hamstrings, these guys will be out for a few weeks. We've got Zerk Thatcher in the twos, so he could probably come in for Jones. Boak's there. Maybe Burgoyne can play back and Boak can come in and play a wing, or Moraes gets a full game on a wing. So, and we've got Rory Atkins. Maybe he comes in for Sin. I don't know. So it's just
the rat.
So it's just like, do these guys come in and then Bergman stays midfield, because Horn Francis is a midfield spot that we're missing now. So I don't know where they're going to fit him. So, I don't know. I did bring him in. So, it was looking good until that last bit. But anyway.
I think for non-owners of Bergman, I think this is a perfect... He didn't go massive. His prices are going to increase that much. You just wait this week and watch. I think he'll play midfield post-buy, and I think he's a good trade from a Bice trainer, someone like that in round 13, 14, somewhere around there, because I think he'll be fine. So, but then again, we've got Mills, we've got Kitty Coleman as well, who are a couple of others that will be in the defence. But he's certainly a name to keep an eye on, because he's a defender mid, so you might even be able to chuck him at M8. For a little bit. But you did mention Moraes there, Jordy. Obviously, 68 was pretty solid as well coming on. So I know a few people were able to loop him on to take the VC from today. And then Holmes with an 83. So he was okay, but I didn't really get involved with Geelong sort of dominating the game. I thought he might have got a little bit more involved then set off the last 5 minutes, which is, I know all us fantasy coaches, we hate when our players sit off the last 5 minutes, particularly when their team's up by a lot, but he will be fine. I certainly saw enough to say that he'll still be a good pick. And anyone that went Vicentini, be pretty happy. 91. I know you didn't get the 150 from Marshall, but you paid $450K for him, so he's going to make some money for you if you went there. Moving over to the...
Yep. Just on the rucks there, is Blitzarves, he got 101. Is he an option at all? I don't know. He seems to be the main ruck.
I love it. Stanley's was an emergency this week, and he was a test. So Stanley's going to be back. I don't think he is. But if Stanley was out for 4 weeks, he would be almost my favourite player under 800K to bring in, because he's number one ruck, round 16 bye, just ticks a lot of boxes. But unfortunately with Stanley being right there, I wouldn't feel comfortable jumping into it, but some people might tend to go that way. GWS and Freo was up next, and sort of battle of the two teams that had sort of been underwhelming, and Freo certainly looked very, very good here and could have been a lot bigger with 17 behinds, but 95-61, 34-point winners for Freo. Shea Bolton with a 119 has been really good. A few people might have gone there with the young injury, and he hasn't disappointed, so he could be someone that you potentially look at. Lockie Ash continues to get it done with a 110. Caleb Strong and Andrew Brayshaw with a 108 and a 103 respectively got it done, particularly Brayshaw, who got the Bedford tag for about 2.5 quarters. Then it switched midway through the third quarter, and he really got going. And he ended up having a 73-point second half. So that premiums, just watch Brayshaw's second half with a tag. Just do that next time if you're having a bad game. Get on your bike and score some points for us, because that was fantastic. The sad story with this one was Finn Callahan. So he went at 102, but he dislocated his shoulder. So he's going to miss a little bit of footy, which is unfortunate. I believe it was his other shoulder that wasn't strapped. So hopefully quick recovery for Finn. Luke Jackson with a 98 would be an option, but Darcy will be back, I would imagine, very, very soon. Briggsy with an 85. Clark and Ryan with 83 and 78. Tom Green, though, Guesty, 78. A little bit disappointing. Obviously, been frustrating with not taking many marks and getting those tackles, and particularly after a 130 last week. I thought he would have backed it up. Sort of, I don't know if he caught much of this game, obviously with 2 games being on at once, but obviously no worries for you with Green. You think you bounce back?
Yeah, I'm a bit useless with the advice tonight. Like I said, I haven't even caught up. Like I was talking about the poo before, and he had that, very pooey score. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't. I'm not particularly worried. I still think he's a top 8 mid. I don't know what, it did seem like a bit of a strange game in terms of the scoring. What were the conditions like? Was it a bit sticky and rainy?
I think it's fine. I don't think there was too
okay.
much. I was watching most of the other game, but yeah, I think it seemed fine.
Oh, look, I mean, it sucks to bring in a primo and have him score a 78, but I'm not particularly worried. Like I said, there's things we're looking to clean up. Buys are just around the corner. We got to be looking at how many. I mean, I'm particularly worried about the amount of red dots I've got sitting on my bench now, particularly with the carnage that came through this week. So, yeah, look, Tom Green is safe. I mean, even like I said, someone put maybe like a Caleb Daniel might even be safe this week as well, even though we've seen him average, 70s now for the past, 5 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. But mentioning about red dots, there might be a rookie that could help with that. So Cooper Simpson, 64 again, backed up another solid score. And the thing that I noted was even after the game, all the commentators in that were praising him and saying that he looked a real goer back there, and they were sort of really good, really happy with his game. So I think it's a good full downgrade, and I think Cleary down to him makes a lot of sense to bank yourself maybe somewhere around the 200K mark, and that probably gets your Horn Francis up to someone really, really good there if you're looking to go that way. So I think Cooper Simpson will be another very popular trade-in option this week. Moving over to the Saturday night game with the Dogs smashing the Bombers by 91 points, and watching Bailey Dale go about it, 49 disposals. It's been a long time since I've seen anyone get that sort of amount of ball. I was a bit annoyed, and Dogs players were joking about Bailey Williams completely ignored Bailey Dale to get him the 50th disposal, which was disappointing. But 154 was absolutely fantastic, and anyone that tunes in the ball, I think a lot of us do. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, because I don't know if you guys saw the tweet, but Mitch was going to bring in Bailey Dale, and then Luke convinced him and said, "No, go Keane Coleman and save cash for next week." And that is, I should laugh. I've had such a shit year, but it's just unfortunate there, Mitch. But you sort of said that he was a solid option, and if anyone jumped on him, then kudos to you if you did jump on him. But 154 was huge. Round 12 by sucks. You can't bring him in, I don't think, this week, because he's going to play 1 week then miss, but maybe he's an option post his bye. Matt Kennedy keeps getting it done. Just that's 5 tons in a row now. Another 113, so he could be someone post his bye that coaches potentially look at there. Nick Martin Jordy, 105, played a bit more forward in this game, so it wasn't as much of this defense sort of where he had been playing a little bit more in the last couple of weeks, but he's got the gravy matchup this week in Richmond, and he's got the round 16 bye. He's going to be roughly around so that right on the $1 million or maybe slightly under, but the fact he's got the round 16 by defender forward Richmond, is he someone that would be one of your top sort of targets from a Horn France if you're looking at a forward?
Definitely. I'm just looking at his heat map. I don't know if you can see on here, but he basically goes everywhere. Look at that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay,
he is
right.
roam. He's basically licensed to roam.
It was a fair bit in defensive half, actually. I thought it was a lot. There was a lot more in the forward half, but
I think he roams,
does what he wants,
which is awesome. And I think against Richmond, he's just going to go wherever, I reckon, and transition. Like obviously, transition ball was massive against Richmond for points, so I think he's a big option. I guess, as Guesty said, it's one of those calls. It's like, do you flick Horn Francis to the midfield and get a big boy mid, or do you, go for someone like Nick Martin for a bit of flexibility, defense or forward? I might look at it because I had Trainer in the defense and he went 50 and got subbed. Yeah. So I think he's a big target, Martin, to maybe fix up a few of those holes that you might need, especially with the buys, as you said. Maybe you flick him back 1 week and forward the other week just to help with the red dots. So. And I think, 105, he's not going to go up heaps. Like he's going to go up a bit, but he's not going up. I think he'll just sit just over $1 million, which is, I think, a pretty affordable price. Like obviously a lot of people trading in Tom Green this week, and he was basically 104, and that was a good price. So I think he'll be about 101 or 102 once lockout rolls. So big option.
Yep, I agree. The Bont 101 just isn't dropping any of these bad scores so we can get him cheap. We're going to be paying a price to get Bont in, but he's going to be a great target off his round 12 bye. He was pretty good even with a Will Setterfield tag for most of the night. Tim English with a 102 as well. just playing really good. Only had the 17 hitouts because it was a pretty uncontested sort of game there with players chipping it round. So, solid score from English. Zach Reed, 82. Watching this, if I own Reed, you love it. He does what you want. He gets into open space, gets those +6. But as a non-owner, it is so painful watching. Like, they're getting smashed and he's still getting the ball. He's a very, very good player, and he's going to be someone that maybe he's like almost like a James Sicily type player that might actually be a guy that might be a premium at some point in the future. But if you still got him, you're loving it, and you're definitely holding him. He's got the round 16 bye, which is perfect. So you hold him right through, and you trade him there. But I am kicking myself that I traded for sure. A few lower scores here. So if anyone's got Davidson 69, Fraser 65, Sanders 65, Pryor got a 59, even Jai Caldwell got a 57 as well. But Guesty, I think the big one here, don't know if you saw Zach Merritt's score, 54. 54 points. Like, Merritt does this once a year, right? He puts an absolute stinker up, which is going to be great for all of us non-owners. Obviously sucks for all the owners that had him, and I think a few people maybe even put the captaincy on him this week with that score. But it's going to be like 1.02 million, round 16 bye. He's got Richmond this week. But then I don't know if you've seen his run after. He's actually got potentially a tag in every single week. He's got Brisbane in there, which would be fine if I get my words out. We'll be fine. But then he's got like Carlton, Hewitt, Geelong, probably a Mullen like he's done. Is he a guy that you just want to wait until he bottoms right out and maybe try and avoid those matchups? Or do you think maybe with Richmond this week you could look at targeting him?
I don't like getting players if they're going to be coming into a run of really tough games, particularly the taggers, even though, Zachy Merritt has a tendency to still play pretty well even when being tagged. But yeah, look, I think, we are a little bit spoiled for choice. I think buys are going to come into it a big part, obviously, with them just around the corner now. So, and we got a few different options that we can look at there that potentially could be top 8, like you said as well, the Bont. Look, he's definitely someone to consider, but just be wary.
Yep. So he's run here just for reference. I got up here. So he's got Richmond this week, which he should be great in. Then Brisbane, which again, he should be fine. I don't think Brisbane will run a tag necessary. But then he goes Carlton, which will be George Hewitt. That they normally do that every time. And even a Chincotta's apparently playing in the VFL. So I don't know whether they bring him in to maybe do a job there. Then they go Geelong. That'll be a Mullen. And then they got Freo, which will be probably a Wagner. So I don't love that those tags in the buys there, but then goes Gold Coast, Richmond, post buy. So maybe he's a post buy type. It'd be pretty cheap, but yeah, but very
juicy. Still a very juicy price.
Yeah, exactly. Archer Day Wicks with a 48 as well, sort of just hanging around. Could be maybe a downgrade option for us with the round 16 buy, but I think with the fact that he's got the in the same position as Cooper Simpson, I think Simpson's the number one guy there, and then maybe he could be next. And Sardell Hawley with a 29 as well. Unfortunately, I don't think he will be in
sub
next week. Sub that tactically, just they're getting smashed, and they brought Shield on for a bit of run, and yeah, so I don't think I know will be the next week, unfortunately.
I think a few Essendon fans, I was looking at the comments on that, and I think they were a bit, up on. He was playing pretty well, I thought, by halftime, and they subbed him out. So it's a tough one on him because I was really looking at getting him this week. I thought, if he could get a full game when I didn't see the sub, he could get a 60, 70. You're going to make 70K. Then he comes into Richmond, can make another 60, 70K. I thought, is he a must-have, But with Short going out, I ended up getting Bergman. But, he obviously seems to be a very high sub candidate, so you can't really go there. Now it probably everything sort of goes backwards with a 29. So, even though he's got Richmond this week, I don't think you can go there. I think you got to go for a Simpson or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Moving over to the
this week, you reckon? I mean, obviously, Lockout hasn't lifted yet, but what, 320, something like that, 330?
Yeah,
I think
330, maybe 325.
Around that. Hopefully, we get Lockout soon. But yeah, I think the trades are pretty. I think I definitely got to get Simpson, and I got to trade out Horn Francis. It's pretty. Yeah. I think So I guess it's getting creative of do you fix a red dot for Simpson? That would be ideal. And then getting Hornet to someone decent. So, yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful. We'll move over to the Sunday games. But as always, the podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Game Day Squad. So, as many of us know, another AFL fantasy platform, but they also do a multitude of other sports. and it's only getting bigger and better every single year. So if you guys haven't signed up yet, the main sort of thing with Game Day Squad is actually their weekly prize. It's not seasonal, so you can register now, register all the way up until the season. They've got, I guess, some of the best cash prizes weekly there, and you don't have to pay to enter. So if you want to register at gamedaysquad.com.au and use the code BAILSDT at sign up, and you get yourself 3 of the 9-player common packs, which is worth $21. That's 27 players that your club started, along with your starter packs there. So if you haven't done it, I love it. I really enjoy it. And obviously, me and Tom do our weekly Wednesday show previewing the upcoming round. So if you guys do want to register, use the code BAILSDT at gamedaysquad.com.au. And head over there and join in the fun. But we will move on to the Richmond and North Melbourne game. And Richmond in back-to-back weeks have been involved in a couple of real good matchups here. And North Melbourne get the job done here by 4 points. And it was the battle of the big men. Tristan Sherry with a 155, 12 tackles and 51 hitouts was beautiful to see. And even Nank, 150 with 13 tackles and 47 hitouts. So it reminded me, Jordy, of that. I don't know if you remember that battle of Goldie and Gorney down at Tassie a few years ago. Probably, I still think that was better, but this one was right up there. Both guys were tackling and just doing everything. So I guess, what did you make of? I don't know how much you got of this game, because obviously you had a gig today. But what did you think of both their performances?
Like 25 tackles between Cherry and Nank. That's crazy. So were they just tapping it and tackling each other?
It was just very, very contested. I think they had the same amount of stoppages in the first half, or more stoppages in the first half today than what the game last night had for the whole game, which was quite extraordinary. It was such a contested game.
Yeah. And 50 hitouts basically each. Like, that's massive. But yeah, I agree. I didn't catch heaps because I was gigging, but that's, yeah. I saw as you said, obviously it was a contested game, and it's just crazy, but it's what we want for fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. I guess if you don't have X, he's got one more week, then his buy is going to be expensive when you got to buy him, because he's now going to be well over $1 million and he's going to be climbing up. But I think that he's got West Coast in round 13. I think if you don't have him, he's a very, very good target to be bringing in round 13 post his buy. And Nank also cheekily, maybe an underpriced option if you didn't jump on a Marshall this week. Maybe you jump on a Nank potentially next week. McKercher with a 111. Seemed like he played more midfield. He sometimes went back into defense. He only went to 2 CBAs, but he's around the stoppages a lot. Got the 10 tackles there. Just don't think we can trust the role changing, because even like Harry Sheezer with a 102, he had 10 tackles and he played more of that mid-forward role, which was flagged earlier in the week. So a little bit of a shame, but Sheezer will still be a top 6, but I guess that 115 that we maybe thought he was going to go at probably drops to maybe that 105, maybe mark around there if he's playing in that role. But he might go back there with a few things, but we'll have to see. Apparently it might change week to week. Taranto with a 93, so a little bit under. There's a lot of handballs in that one there for the lower score. Sam Lawler with an 81. I traded him out again as well last week, so another trade out that went pretty well. If you had him there as a cover for someone, or you're looping him, pretty happy with an 81 there. Guesty, you mentioned Caleb Daniel with a 77. That's now 4 scores below 80 in a row for him. So he's someone I think probably not going to be able to trade it this week, because a lot of people got Horn France to deal with. But I think someone to trade out his buy, I think, will be a good move there. Luke Trainer with a 50 was subbed out tactically, unfortunately there. I think that was part of his rest, but it's a bit of a concern he's being subbed out. Tactically there, I think it was about 5 minutes into the last quarter. But I guess if you've got him, you probably have to hold it at the moment, unless you can maybe do some moves where you go Horn Francis down and Trainer up. Maybe train to Coleman maybe is a trade that's going to be pretty popular this week, so something to watch. And then Finn O'Sullivan. So quick story about what I did this week. I had Xavier Lindsay at M8, and I heard the whispers about Harry Boyd flying, and I thought, here we go. I can't risk that. So I've got to back in Foss because I had emergency. And I thought 39 at half time, fantastic. You might get a 60. No, Finn O'Sullivan was never going to get 60. He had a -3 third quarter and he got a 46. So I got that instead of Lindsay, who went a 78. So we'll chat about Lindsay in a sec. But yeah, Finn O'Sullivan just is incapable of going anything over 60. It's just not going to happen. And then Hardiman scored a 44 as well. So if you trade into him, a little bit disappointing because I thought he might have had a better role than that there. Moving over to the Brisbane and Melbourne game, and your boy, Guesty, Big Max, 117, top scoring for the game.
Sorry, Bales. Just going back one. We didn't talk about Shees a little. did that halfback
Oh,
role stick?
I touched him pretty
Sorry.
quickly. I just
Sorry.
said that he had that mid forward role that was chatted about during the week. So
Okay, all right, interesting.
yes, it wasn't really that halfback, but I think Alistair Clarkson said in a press conference that it's going to be changing week to week, so it's maybe quarter by quarter. So it's not great, but yeah, so maybe we're not going to get that upside from Shizu if he doesn't have that upside. But yeah, Maxi Gawn, Guesty, 117. Obviously, very, very good, but obviously a couple of the rucks went massive. As an owner of Gawn, though, and then you got Marshall this week, I guess I just want to know your thoughts on what you might be doing in the rucks moving forward. Obviously, you're not trading anyone yet or anything like that, but is there a plan maybe to get X at some point? Is maybe one of those rucks going to go? What are you sort of thinking now after seeing that big score from X?
So, yeah, look, I mean, he's undervalued. He's a top of line. I've always been concerned about Gawn. I mean, I think anytime we've talked about Gawn, I've sort of said, I didn't really want to go him to begin with. I was actually going him to fade Cherry, thinking that he had a better run at the beginning. But I was concerned about, the comments that coaching staff had made in the preseason about, resting him and being about having a 2-ruck set up as well with it's Tom Campbell. Is it Tom Campbell that they've got there? No, is that it?
Yep.
So, look, the idea was to get on him early and get off him at some point. So, look, there's what is there? Probably, it's going to depend on how we go after this week, right? But there's probably still 100 grand difference between them or something along those lines. So, I mean, he might even come into consideration earlier than before the buys, just depending on, different ways that I'm going to have to use to make money. So I obviously I was able to get in on Roma at a cheap price. And if I can make cash by going Gawn down to Cherry, then, that might be able to fix something else up. I mean, it might even be something I'll look at this week with the Horn Francis, although, like Jordy did say, I think Simpson has got a rare rook that you're bringing in. So, yeah, he's on the cards to go at any week.
Yeah, something to look for sure. But top scoring here, which was good for Big Max. Zorko with a 109. So Kitty Coleman coming in affected more Jasper Fletcher, and Zorko just went about his business. So he's still someone that you can look at targeting with that round 16 bye. And I think the confidence was there. We saw Kitty Coleman in the game, and tick for Zorko, his role was still the same. Both Cozzy Pickett and Lockie Neal got a 101 there, so a few people maybe have got them as pods. Josh Dunkley, 94, was quiet for parts, but then went big in other parts, which was quite interesting. But 94, at least if he's not going too bad, he's going and getting those 90s. So, again, still don't mind targeting him round 16 bye, and I think we need a couple of those guys there. Will Ashcroft as well, 93, was solid enough there. Petrarca, 84, 31 touches, a little bit unders there. A lot of handballs and only the 2 marks and 2 tackles, but tough matchup against Brisbane. I think he'll bounce back next week back at the G. Clayton Oliver looked better, still did that tagging role on Lockie Neal. And he was going really well, had a really poor last quarter, but I think the 82, he did show some decent signs from when I tuned in, so maybe he's a hold for those owners there. Levi keeps pumping out these really solid scores, another 82. But Xavier Lindsay, Jordy, 78, and even Langford with a 74. I know that Langford's been really consistent with these 70s, and Lindsay's been the guy that's actually been a bit down, but sort of responded this week a little bit. I know he had a massive third quarter, but you just keeping these guys, if either of them are M8, are they just a guy that if you can loot with maybe a couple of guys this week, just keep them this week, cop the, I guess, quote unquote, maybe lower score, and then use them through the buys and trade at their buy? Would you be sort of looking to keep those sort of guys as rookies because of the amount of red dots we're building up?
Yeah, I reckon. I think that's what I'm going to do. Like, I don't have Lindsay and Langford, but like in this example, like, I think we talk about Trainer and these sort of guys. Like, I think just keep all of these guys for like your buys and fix up a red dot. So Lindsay's a great example where he could pop a 70 in one of these buy rounds and be really helpful. I think particularly with this game, you notice that it was quite a high scoring fantasy game. So, a lot of players scored 80 plus, and obviously he was on the end. He's obviously an outside type, so he needs the ball to be, the other guys to be feeding in the ball, plus sixes, handball chains. And Melbourne obviously played a really good, I caught a bit of this game at the end. They had a really good, obviously they won the game. They had a really good transition in the second half. So he was able to get on the end of some good chains. So But, I guess we've seen that in the past. If he can't get onto that, he can drop a 30 or a 40. But I think for now, you hold these guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think being at the G this week coming up against, I know it's against Sydney, but I think it'll be a lot better for both these guys because they both play a bit of that wing, and I'm looking to hold Lindsay for the weekend, and he'll be someone I'll use through the buys. We did see the return of Kitty Coleman, which makes us all very, very happy on a football point as well because he's been out for so long, but also the fact that he's in. Apparently, Lockout has lifted as well. So he's priced at night 538K. He went up 17K, break even of 43. Ran 16 buys perfect. If you can go maybe a red dot on your bench and maybe split a Horn Francis down and a red dot up to Kitty Coleman and loop maybe with him, that could be a play. But I think he's going to be a pretty good target there. I think we saw what we need to see. His game time was, I think, 68%, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 68%. Had a couple of kick-ins as well, which was positive. So I don't think you have to get him this week, but I think he is a good target if you can make your trades work around that. So someone to look at there. And another person.
Just on that, Bales. Yeah, I saw a tweet because Big O was laid out. So I think Fort came in, and the tweet was something around, this means Kitty Coleman will play a full game and McKenna is now the sub. So I was wondering whether they actually were planning for Coleman to be sub. And that maybe that's why they've given him low tog, 68%. So, but he looked really good. So I think, the way I see it is Brisbane are looking maybe just to get him a game in as a sub or, this in 68%. So to score 73 is really good. And I think the only way that I'd get him, I think, is fixing like a red dot, I think, because that's going to give you an extra number. But he looked good and confident. So, just sort of flag that about the game time. I think he was meant to be sub.
Yeah, no, good flag there. Also, Alex, obviously, I know that he's popped in here a few times in the chat saying Kitty was playing in second gear, 2 rests per quarter, will build up next week, which is a good point. I like
there you
that.
Go.
So
yeah,
I think you could even wait one more week. They got the Hawks, which is a tough matchup. Maybe you wait a week, round 12. That's an easy switch from, I guess, a rookie or someone at that point. So I think you can go this week, but I think he's almost perfect the week after. Also, another guy to keep an eye on, Kyle Lohman. He was subbed out tactically again, only had the 19 points. So he's down at 348K with the round 16 bye. Him and Simpson are essentially going to be near the same price maybe next week. So that could be someone there that you do look at bringing in. But I think Simpson is the guy you go for. But Lohman is someone there that we might be able to look at as soon as round 12 does hit. Moving on to the final game, and West Coast, Guesty, your boys getting the win, 28 points over the Saints. And it didn't matter for the Saints boys because a couple of them still went massive with, we mentioned Ryan Marshall before, but 158. He was back to his very best. So he is a good target if you don't have him. Jack Sinclair was also another very popular trade-in with 139 points, 38 touches there. He was very good. But Brady Hoff played midfield and looked good once again with a 108. So is he maybe a risky mid-price you might be able to target potentially there? Jack still with a 105. So, Guesty, another game where Jack still had low touches but plenty of tackles. Is this someone that you're going to be maybe steering clear of because if he doesn't have those tackles, you're just going to get a floor score? Or are you looking at the other way and going, well, if he's going to tackle, maybe if he gets more of the ball, there's the upside. Where would you be sitting on a guy with Jack Steele?
Yeah, he was actually in consideration for me last week before all hell broke loose. But look, I just feel like he's a player that's potentially, he hasn't been scoring as well as what we expect him to be scoring. Jack Steele, I mean, he's always had tackles has been the foundation of his kind of the game that he plays and a lot of his scoring. I would like to see him racking up a little bit more. It did look like St Kilda had changed things up a bit last week. I mean, once again, I didn't even watch this game, right? So even didn't get to see my boys as well. But, I will go back and watch it, especially after having a win. But, yeah, I'd be interested to see how St Kilda lined up because I think, it's only, 2 years ago that he was a, 115, 120 averaging top 8 midfielder. So, it's really these mids really haven't stood out, but we've got a lot of those players that I guess are slowly coming to the surface. Like your we thought you'd Tom Greens, but and I guess we also thought you Nick Dacos, right? But, certainly your Dawsons, your Rosies, those kind of players. So we all know that the midfields is normally the foundation of your scoring, particularly in the back end of the season. So, look, I think he's an option to get in. He's one of those kind of top line players that's underpriced. And, if you're going to win a car or a hat, these are the kind of players that you need to be getting on. So, look, it's, I think he's definitely got to be in consideration.
Yeah. I did like the tackles. So if you can just get maybe 10 more touches, that those 105s can be those 120s that we saw not even a couple of years ago. Matt Flynn, 93. Was sold for anyone else that's got him there. Jack McRae, 84. Lowest score for him. Ryan Marrick just continued, just putting up another solid score, 84. So I think he's a hold until his bye. He had plenty of kick-ins. Just getting up here. He had 5. With Baker, Duggan, and Jinby only having 1 each there. So that was good to see. Then you also had Nasai Wanganimira with a 76. He went off, as I said a couple of times with cramping. I don't, and people said this after Brisbane game, it was hard for me to get the point across, even though he scored a 130. I don't like this role. I don't like the midfield role. He only played midfield for about a quarter and a bit, and then back part of the last quarter he went back, but I don't like the midfield role whatsoever. Like, he was good against Brisbane, but I just don't think he gets involved. He sort of is in, I don't think it suits him. He's in the wrong areas when he tries to get the ball, whereas when he's at half back, he gets all the ball. So, yeah, Ross, I don't know why you keep putting him in the midfield. Put Jack Sinclair in the midfield because Sinclair actually plays well in the midfield. So, 76 is disappointing, but I think he'll be fine moving forward there. What do we got? Garcia with a 65. O'Connell 62. Like, Liam O'Connell isn't an awful trade-in. He's a defender that will probably play. He's not going to score great, but if you need some cash and a green dot, he's probably someone that could be there for you during the buys. But Jordy Filippo, 50. Only 50. And not only that, so he had 7 CBAs, which is great. If someone just said he had 7 CBAs, like, good. 59% time on ground. What? Surely we can't.
I know.
We got to wait another week. Do you think we got to see a good score from him before jumping in? Is that, would you say?
Yes. And so this, I'm just looking at it now. All of those CBAs were in the first half. So in the second half, they didn't do that. So obviously the game was up for grabs. I think they're just managing him. I think Ross said that. Like he said a couple of weeks ago, he's come from a long way because he had, his preseason was ages ago, and he obviously had a into the preseason. So they're going to use him forward. They're going to use him in the midfield, but I think it's going to take a bit of time to develop that. And I don't think he's a massive trade-in. I think it's probably similar to Kitty. I think he will come good. If you can fix a red dot, maybe that's a good way to go. But he's not a priority for me to get in at the moment. And unless we start seeing those mid-minutes, which I think he will do. It's just getting the legs in.
Yeah, I think this is almost a step where it's like low game time, but a little bit of midfield. Next week, you'll have a little bit of midfield and a bit more game time. Then it will sort of slowly start creeping up from there. So I agree. I think not
and then
next
they have
week.
To buy and yeah,
it could be a perfect either downgrade in round 12 potentially, or even after his buy in round 14 to maybe trade out a rookie. Cool. That gets us through the games. We are at the hour mark, so we'll wrap up. We do have a quick super chat here, which we'll answer, which is from Exceptions, saying that he went Philippou instead of Sinclair to save cash. Yeah, sorry, mate. That is that's a brutal one there. But very similar to the Mitch one with Bailey Dale and getting Kitty Coleman. Mate, I know how you feel. It's been a tough year. It feels like every decision I make just isn't going right. All I can say is what I tell myself at night. There's always next week. So,
well, it's been a couple of rough rounds, right? Like, there's been 2 really kind of strange rounds. Well, not strange, but like where we've had some bullets and weird scores, like an Oliver last week and a Horn Francis this week. So, I think it's just important at this point in time not to get too rattled, right? Don't try and do anything too crazy. We're only a round away from the buys. We've still got a long way to go in the season. Try and just keep that upgrade cadence going. Obviously a horn bag is probably a big bullet for a lot of people, but once again, just try and use it as an opportunity to improve your team. Maybe you can get a red dot out, bring in Simpson. That makes your bench better as well as gets the cash gen going. And, hopefully you can get up to, an underpriced mid. Now that I'm just having a bit of a look at it, you've got, like I said, Jack Steele averaging 109 over the past 3 rounds, and he's 965,000. So he's probably priced under 100 there, right? So And Nick Martin we talked about as well, 109 for the last 3 rounds. Once again, priced just over 100. So, there's some options out there. Try and keep improving your team, and just keep your eye on the prize at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, there's certainly no prize for me or you, Guesty, unfortunately, the way it's they're going on.
Well, you got the prize this week, mate. You beat me in the fucking Content Creators Cup, all right? So you got something to celebrate.
That it is a prize, but just this year. But we will wrap up there because there's sort of a lot to digest and around. We do obviously have our Q&A on Tuesday night, so we'll answer a heap of your questions there as well. So we'll maybe have a special guest on Tuesday night, so stay tuned for that one. Haven't had this guy on for a while, so we might have him on Tuesday. But we'll answer a heap of your questions there. But if you do want a team review or a guaranteed answer to your question, then you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. We have an exclusive Patreon Q&A they'll record every Wednesday night. Also, there'll be other bonus bits of content in the back half of the year in there as well. You get a free team review per Patreon member each week. So if you want to sign up to that and get involved, then head over to our Patreon. A link is in the description of the video and the podcast. But we'll go through, I guess, what we're thinking of early trades. So, Jordy, what's your sort of early thoughts for trades?
Yeah, I think I definitely gonna get Simpson. So I'm thinking you might have to go Corey Warner to Simpson, which I think is good because he got 27 last week. So I'm thinking I'm going him, and that gives me a little bit of money. And then I have to get rid of Horn Francis. I think, I brought in Cherry and Bergman last week, who are around 12 players. So I got to get rid of him to cut some numbers, and I can't, obviously, with the injury. But yeah, I just have to decide where I go. Do I go Nick Martin or do I go to a midfielder? Maybe I get your boy Jordan Dawson.
Hey.
He's off a big one, and he's got a
tricky run after West Coast this week. He's got, I think it's Sydney, Brisbane, Hawthorn or something. So it's a pretty tough one. But maybe he's in the midfield a lot with those games.
Yeah. He's the number one mid at the moment for average. I don't know. It's one of those things for me. It's like if I can get a guy, it's like even with the run, do I just get him? Because then I've got him. And he's going to be a top 8. So I don't know. I'll have a think about that. But yeah, let's go with Dawson in and Simpson.
Yeah. What mid did you say was? What mid?
Dawson.
Yeah. What mid? What number do you say was?
Oh, he's number 1.
Oh, music to my ears. I heard you. I just wanted you to say it again.
He's averaging 111.
Yeah. I love it. Guesty, any early thoughts for trades for you? Obviously, Hornbag you got to deal with.
Yeah, so look, I think it'll be a Connor Stone for me going out, which will pocket me a little bit of cash there down on Cooper Simpson. And then, look, I've got a couple of options to consider. I could bring in a Wang. That sounds nice, doesn't it? I could even look at a Sinclair or, well, there you go. Got lots of Saints I consider. A Jack Steele, but I think I might end up going in the path for Nick Martin.
Yep, I like it. And I've also got the Hornbag to deal with. I just had a quick look at what I can do with trades there, and I can go Stone to Simpson and Horn Francis to Martin with 3K in the bank. Things you love to see. So
I'd be happy.
I didn't get Sinclair this week over Hines, which sucked, but it meant I can do the trade this week. So Nick Martin at this stage is I like him against Richmond as well. A potential, not getting too ahead of ourselves, but BC Friday night against Richmond, I think that's something that I'm going to be looking at. So at the moment, those are my 2 trades, and it fixes a red dot as well, which I do like. Beautiful. That'll wrap us up for our round review. As I mentioned, we will be live on Tuesday night answering a heap of your questions. So apologies we couldn't get to many tonight. Hopefully we answer them sort of with some discussion through the games. We'll be answering a heap of your questions on Tuesday night. So tune in at, I believe it's 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Perth time, answering all your questions. Tune in on Tuesday night live on YouTube. Jordy, mate, where can the people find you? And so any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just on X, Jordan to center. No real closing thoughts. I think lockout just lifted, so going to play around and put Jordan Dawson in my team.
Yeah.
Life feels better, mate. I tell you that.
Exactly. Mate, thank you for jumping on once again. Guesty, mate, where can people find you? Any closing thoughts?
No, Tim Guest AU. Like I said, just look out for each other this week. Well, every week, right? But maybe a little bit extra this week. Check in with your mates. Just doesn't have to be about that. It could just be to find out how they're going.
Yep. Very, very well said. And you can find me at BAILSDT. You can find us at AFL excuse me, at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. As I said, Tuesday night, we're back. I'll be back with my team review tomorrow. So if anyone he wants to hear me more complain about my team tomorrow afternoon on YouTube, I'll be going through my team there. But yeah, we obviously got one more week till the buys. Final week of Best 22 for a while, which I guess will probably save me and Guesty for a few weeks there. So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you are on the YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. If you're listening on the pod, 5-star rating and review, that'd be very much appreciated. Appreciate everyone that tuned in live. And if you haven't tuned in live, tune in live next time. We are live after the final game of the round, reviewing the round, Tuesday nights, Friday nights, all that stuff, which you can find on our YouTube channel and podcast feed. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on Tuesday for our Q&A. Thanks everyone. See ya.
Bye.